Joji, the experiences you have given to them and to our students. You are doing it. You are leading it. We are the people to follow you. So Lord, give us a heart of humility and also receptiveness so that we will be able to receive it, understand it, and we will follow through your way and also teach our juniors that what the Lord has done or doing in our life in the midst. We thank you so much for this beautiful time. Bless us together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please be seated.
Good morning again to those of you who just joined us now. One of the goals of the Believers Church Medical College is to mold and develop caring and competent physicians. Competence is what we learn in the classrooms and in the clinics, but compassion and caring nature only comes when you're exposed to the realities of life. And I'm so glad in this college we have the opportunity where our students get an opportunity to go beyond the walls of this institution, go to places where normally people don't go, so that their hearts are exposed, their eyes see things which normally they wouldn't see. And truly, actually, over the last few years, this SHP program, Secondary Hospital Exposure Program, has become one of the flagships of our medical college. And even recently, the former Vice Chancellor told one of our faculty, he still remembers the time he came here and listened to the SHP presentation, and he invited the 2016 batch to come over to Thrissur, and we had an opportunity to present this program. We hope that this will be a role model program, and today, to start off the series of presentations on secondary hospital program, we've asked two of our faculty who have accompanied the students to two parts of India. This time we are starting off with Orissa, two of the three hospitals. Dr. Luke Matthews went with a group of students to the BCMCH Christian Hospital, and Dr. Joji Joshua went to the Ashakiran Hospital in Koraput, district of Orissa. So today Dr. Luke and Dr. Joji will be presenting pictures and sharing their insights, and probably encouraging many of you to think. I especially want to welcome the 2020 batch and the junior batches also to sort of probably kindle in you the excitement for next year, God willing, that you will also get to go. So over to you, Dr. Luke, to start off. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Samuel Johnson said that he who makes himself a beast gets rid of the pain of being a man. I think what Samuel Johnson is saying is that being a man is difficult. It is painful. It involves sacrifice. To be a man in the image of God, one has to be compassionate, kind, caring. He should also be having no prejudices, hatred. He should be imbued with a sense of basic morality, and he should respect others. And more importantly, he should have the courage of convictions. So when you see that we have all these qualities in a person, you will know that it is difficult to live. Because when you are a beast, you don't have to care for others. You can be selfish. You can be what you want. You can grab from others. That is what a beast is. Now you will say, no, why do we have to be man? We are already evolved into being a man. But the truth is, that is the form. The reality is that we are all in our mind being transformed from the beast to the man. However, there is always a quest within man to go back to being the beast, because it is easy. He can throw the shackles of being a human being and going to becoming a beast. The French have a word for that, and they call it nostalgie de la bogue, meaning a craving for the mud from which we crawled out millions of years ago. So dear friends, I will come back to this thought time and again as we proceed in our talk. Now we are in a program called Quest. What is a quest? Quest is a search. And it's not just an ordinary search. It involves the mind, body, and soul, and a definite yearning to find out. And that is what this quest is. The secondary hospital posting, I feel, is a quest. And it is rightfully so, because you will see how it becomes a quest as we evolve while I talk at this time. The main aims of this program was to learn from resource-limited circumstances. And the second thing was to see the real India. You know, Joni Umman from BCMCH Hospital said, the India that you know resides in Delhi, Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, maybe Cochin and Trivandrum. But the true India, the Bharadam, is in the villages, where the poor people are. That is where it is. And most of our medical students here come from the top 5% of the economic strata. There was an article in the JAMA recently about the disparity between the providers of health and the people whom they serve. 95% of the people you are going to treat are below where you are. And therefore, there is a disconnect between the provider and the person who receives care. So this program, again, is planned and designed so that you will be able to see what happens in the village among the tribals, and therefore let it to become an eye-opener for you. And then the fourth plan for this hospital posting was to find out why people work in mission hospitals. What did our students learn? I've put the number 8 there because I will bring out clearly 8 clear drawouts from this posting. Now the man in front is Aaron. Is Aaron here? Not yet arrived. Oh yes, he's there. Thank you. Aaron is this gentleman sitting in front with that smile in that flowery blue shirt. I asked him, every day after the day's work, we used to have a time of reflection. And I asked them at 8 o'clock, what did you learn today? And what is your reflection? And then Aaron said, sir, you know, I wanted to join for medicine and I prayed to get a chance to go into medicine. And when I got it, I was so happy. My family was happy. The people of Puyapalli was very happy. But then, as I spent my time here in this college, I lost my interest. I became disillusioned as I walked the long corridors of education and when I did the steep steps of examination. Truly, sir, I became disillusioned. And this is not my own feeling. It is the feeling of all my classmates. I said, okay, has this posting changed it? Yes, sir. I have refound my first love for medicine. And I asked them, how did you do that, Aaron? He said, sir, do you remember that man, the 28-year-old man who was rushed into casualty that day? You and I were there with the doctors here, and then we rushed to the patient. We saw that he was extremely breathless, and along with him was this thin lady who was hardly 18. She had one child in one hand and another child in the other, and she was pregnant. She and the patient did not dare look at our face. And as we went there, we were also concerned. Sir, I was more concerned because I was worried about the patient. And when we went to the patient, we took a quick history, quick examination, and then we said this could be a massive pleural effusion. And then we did a chest x-ray, and sure enough, it was an effusion. I was so impressed. And then we put a chest tube inside. And after it drained about 2.5 liters of fluid, this frightened, distressed, breathless man looks up at us and smiled. And his wife still never looked at us. All she did was put her hand upon the man. But the small child she was carrying, hardly 2 years old, looked up and smiled. Dear friends, Aaron says, my interest for medicine was not only rekindled, it just burst out into a large flame, because then I knew I had the power. I said, what power? Power to empathize, power to heal, and power to give joy to the people who come to serve me. What more do I need? This is the profession that I should be in. Dear friends, I just asked my students to ponder. They started to think, and when they started thinking, they developed questions. Questions are the beginning of any major quest. The second lesson, so number one as I've put it. Number two, this meek young lady waiting there crossed, with her hands crossed, is Kirtana. She's waiting for a chance to get into the operation theater. She's looking expectantly. She is there in the pink dress amongst the three of them. So I asked her, Kirtana, what is your reflection? She said, you know, sir, before I joined medicine, people used to ask me why I want to get into medicine. And I used to tell them I want to serve. But at that time, sir, I did not know the meaning of serve. So I asked her, what did you learn then? What meaning did you derive? No, sir, you see, when I see the doctors here who have left home, have left comfortable circumstances, and when they have left to come to this place and to work for the people who are dispossessed, who are poor, who are unable, marginalized, and exploited, I find that there is a reason why they come here. And now I know what service is. So I said, what is service? Why do you think they have come here, Kirtana? I feel they have come here because they love. Love whom, Kirtana? Love the patients. Is it only loving the patients? No, sir. They love God. What the mentors at BCMCH did not tell them a word of religion, did not tell them anything about love, but what they saw exposed there as an exposition was the display of true love. What more gospel needs to be taught? It is said that Francis of Assisi said, preach the gospel at all times, but use words if necessary. And here, someone a long time ago said, what is the most important commandment of all? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. What Kirtana told me resounded very much like that. What greater understanding. This young lady has found that oyster with the most precious pearl in the study of any secondary hospital posting. And I was so pleased to hear from her. And as I listened to it, I became very tearful within my heart. Now, this is Merrill. Merrill, too, gave a speech at the BCMCH chapel one morning. And she, too, was impressed by the love that was seen there, but on a different angle. I shall read from what she wrote. The most important type of love taught to us by God is not through his words or blessings, but through his creations. Here in BCMCH Hospital, I was able to see God's love working through his creations. I was able to see it through the nurses who touched every patient even without a glove, because no medicine heals the heart as a human touch. I saw doctors skipping meals and sacrificing their happiness to restore the health of a person whom they have just met. One thing I noticed during my visit here was the staff who did the most unnoticed deeds, but they did it with a smile on their face because they knew they worked for something greater. I asked a staff member if she loved working there in BCMCH Hospital, far from her home and all the comforts that she's enjoyed. And she said, you can't do what I do every day without loving it more day by day. If this, Merrill asked this question last, if this isn't God's love working through the minds and hearts, then what is it? You know, it reminds me of a statement. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and if I have not love, I am a resounding gong and a clanging cymbal. If I have the wisdom and the power of prophecy and can fathom all truths and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains and yet have not love, I am nothing. if I give all what I have to the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, and yet not have love, I gain nothing. What these two young ladies have told us and have discovered is love in action, and the purpose of why, one of the initial question our thing was why people go to mission hospitals. It is because they love. The most important type of love taught to us by God is not through His words, but through His creations. Merrill says one more thing in those sentences. What she's trying to tell us is that we are all instruments in the hand of the God Almighty. Now this young lady is Kathy. Now the poverty they saw, our students saw, taught them the value of things instead of the price of things. You know, we have heard of Oscar Wilde. He said, famously, he said this. He said, a skeptic is a person who knows the price and cost of everything but not the value of anything. But then our students saw the value of things as in this posting. Waste has become a sin. A young patient who had severe anemia, I asked Kathy what her reflections were, and she brings about this narration. A young patient who had severe anemia, in anuric renal failure and heart failure, refused to leave the Bisamkatak Hospital to go to a nearby district for dialysis. Bisamkatak Hospital does not have a dialysis facility. And interestingly, almost 30% of the patients who come to medicine at Bisamkatak have renal failure, the cause of which has been expounded to be many and not really clearly delineated. And Kathy was troubled because this lady couldn't leave and she was dying. Kathy was troubled. And she said, on my second day after medicine posting, I called my father, who is a nephrologist in Qatar. I was so disturbed by seeing a small girl who was unable to receive proper treatment because of the lack of money for transportation. This problem held her between life and death. It made me realize the various obstacles in healthcare and how important money is and the value of it for those in need. It made me contemplate how wasteful I can be. Remember, that is an important thing for people to learn, how wasteful we can be. I told my appa, agitated by the reality that I would like to come back and work for these people. And I said, Appa, I don't know how, but I wish I can. And my appa proudly said, if you do so, Kathy, I will also come with you and work there. Oh, I wish the nephrologist would come to Bisamkatak Hospital. Remember, I spoke to you about the beast, and I spoke to you about man. Here, in all these instances that I have narrated, the beast walks towards becoming a man. Seeing poverty and its ravages made me realize that waste is a sin. Now, we are in the belly of a large submarine at Visakhapatnam. And the person you see in front, the handsome young man, is Kevin Thomas. And just behind him is Mia Sajid, the girl in that beautiful top. Now, these two were peculiar. Kevin would suddenly disappear from the group and go and explore things for himself. But, you know, these two had a quality of quiet exposition and could be vitriolic with their words. So I asked them, what is your reflection? And they said, sir, we have found out the art of medicine. So I asked them, art of medicine? I know the science of medicine, and recently we heard someone speak about the philosophy of medicine. What did you understand about the art of medicine? And then they said, sir, it is the finesse of the intellect, which sharpens very profoundly when the patient comes in hanging between life and death. And these doctors, they focus so deeply on these patients and come to a diagnosis. I said, is that all? No, sir. Apart from that, something more important. They look at these patients with respect, kindness, love, and they touch them in a different way. There is, as if there is a holiness that surrounds that particular scene. Move away and watch what I am telling you. They see that and they say, sir, that is the art of medicine. You know, the people in Bisamkatak, they are short. And if you suddenly lift your hand to scratch your head, they will go like this as if you're going to hit them. What it tells you is that these poor people have been subjugated, exploited, and made to suffer in life, that you just have to lift your hands up, they close their eyes in fear. And what our students saw, knowing this background, was the compassion, the love, the kindness, and more importantly, the respect that the doctors showed towards the patients. That, they tell me, is the art of medicine. Who told them that? Who told them that? That is a quest. That quest is a revelation for their minds to find out. Quests yield wisdom, and wisdom comes untaught. It says, blessed is the man who gains understanding, gains wisdom and gathers understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gains thereof finer than gold. She is more precious than the rubies, and anything you desire cannot be compared to her. And I'm so pleased that as we take these students through these positions and give them a time to think, they brilliantly come across. And I was just telling Dr. Thomas Chaco just now, given a chance, our students will rise up to a great height of intellect and bring pearls of information. And this SHP was not an education for them, it was an education for me. And I thank them. Discovering the art of medicine, love, kindness, compassion, the touch, a pleasant bedside manners. So said Mia and Kevin. Thank you, Mia and Kevin, for this learning. This young man, Akash, I saw him coming in with his coat folded up. He's a smart young man, very intelligent. Now, I asked him what his reflection was. He looked at me, scratched the stubble of his beard, and he said, sir, you know, I am intrigued by the very complicated conundrum of the medical cases that come here. It is so complex. It is like as if you have tied a string into a very large knot. It's very difficult to untie it. But then I see that people use their mind to untie this knot and come to a diagnosis and put it into the niche. And I know that the right diagnosis saves the patient, whereas the wrong diagnosis does not. You know why he said that? Because many patients come from different parts of that state to this hospital with peculiar diagnosis, and they are getting worse day by day. And once the diagnosis is rightly made and when they are treated, these patients improve. So I told Akash, you're right, but tell me your reflection. And he brings out this pearl. My patient's life and death depends on my knowledge. Therefore, I need to study to give my patient the best I can. Dear friends, Akash will not be studying for an examination. He will study to live and to help people. Now his friends may look at him and say, "Da, nee angana paranjo." Sort of look, I can see that happening there. But I tell you, deep inside our minds, we may appear outwardly very different, but inwardly, that is what motivates, that is what transforms. And I'm sure that my young boy there who taught me this great science will transform and become a different person. Now, the seventh truth is taught to me by Arun. Arun is this young man who is sitting in front, and we are on a trip. You know, we did a lot of trips, and I'll tell you why. Arun managed the funds of the group. He had a mind for numbers, and surely he's a surgeon in the making. So I asked him, Arun, what is your reflection? And Arun said, I would like to cite a case. All of them cited a case, so I would like to cite a case. Okay, please tell me. And he said, I tell you about the case of a young lady of 26 who was brought to the emergency ward in shock. Do you remember, sir? She had bleeding. She had a retained placenta. She first went to a local nursing home where she was asked to promptly go to the district hospital. She went there. And you believe it or not, we in Kerala cannot believe this. She was in that hospital with the retained placenta, bleeding, and not a single doctor saw her. Till a kind nurse told her, it's best that you go to the Christian hospital in BCMCH. So from Rayagada, they come in an auto rickshaw which rattles along the potholed roads to BCMCH for treatment. So I told Arun, that's a nice story. Tell me what you gained from it. He said, it is clear that the BCMCH Christian Hospital was the only solace of many sick when the government hospitals disregard patients with impunity. I wonder what would have happened if this hospital was not here. Actually, what he said is very true. I have thought so when I looked at these patients who have come from far and wide, helpless lot. Who will help them? And when you see that, you know how useful this hospital has been. And God bless the person who started it in that remote, so-called God-forsaken place. So I asked Arunai, that is a good story. Tell me your reflection. What is the juice of it? And he said, a doctor must be present, be there, willing to help, empathetic, become the man from the beast, and have a deep reverence for life. Life is a gift of God. You have to have a reverence for life. If you do not have a reverence for life, you will disregard patients. A reverence for life. Let me ask you, how many textbooks, if you read Bailey and Love, Harrison's textbook, Harper, Weston Todd, community medicine books, can you find this that you have listened to in the last few minutes? 7 very important truths. And the 8th truth is, as I told you, a week before or in fact 1.5 weeks before we traveled, I called my group to my home and I said, look here, one of the important things you must do is that we must travel. We won't travel to any other place, but we have to go to places of historic importance. We have to go to places of scenic beauty. And when I said this, by the time I just finished saying it, they said, yes, sir, we know where we have to go. They had already planned. And you know why I wanted that? I think this should be incorporated in every SHP. You all should travel, because travel brings people together. Travel causes one to care for the other. Travel allows us to accept the other person's idiosyncrasies. We find that we interact and we become adjustable in our behavior. In addition to that, you see the parts of history, you see the mistakes in history, you see the traditions, the culture, the practices of different places, you see the food preferences, you see the religious life there, and you take it in context of your own belief, you reflect. That's a very important thing. Now, I come to the last part of my talk. The true focus is on how our students can develop individually and in a community. The abstract, intangible, yet important learning apart from the academic is the art of living. You can be very clever, but if you live badly, it's a destroyed life. This elusive magic cannot be taught, but is learned in silence. Wisdom, as all of us, is a virtue which is not innate, it is acquired. And it can be only acquired through experience, time, and humility. So, it is very important for us to travel. In short, as we heard Philip Finney speaking and Achin praying, in short, we are molding group memories. Now, if you think of it as the seniors, what do you remember of your medical college? Do you remember your medicine lecture? Or do you remember the time you spent with your friends and the lessons you learned? In life, it is your lessons that you learned. I told you, science informs, but experiences transform. And that is the transformation that the SHP can do for you. Hopefully, my team will respect and understand the world outside and its diversity. And more importantly, begin to realize and know that inner unity. You know, I said this when I wrote a letter to this place. You know, the kings of old, they used to get their eldest son and tell him, "Son, you will be king one day. Now leave my home." And they used to send them out in disguise and as paupers with a mentor. And these children, these young princes, in that poverty, they used to travel through the country. And as they did, they looked at the borders. They knew their borders. They knew the hills, the valleys, and the streams. They saw the people in distress, those in need, what their needs were. They saw the exuberance of the wealthy and the exploitation that people suffered. And they learned and they became wise. And when they came back to the country and when they were made to sit upon the throne, these people became benevolent and good kings. Dear friends, this SHP posting has done that. It will make my students benevolent and good doctors. That is the salt in the porridge. If salt is not there in a good curry, it will be made so well by the best of cooks, but if the salt is missing, it's of no use. The SHP is the salt in this. It is a quest, and appropriately is this program organized today. I thank God for His invisible hand in keeping us safe as we traveled. I thank the doctors and staff at the BCMCH Christian Hospital for the opportunity to learn and for their kindness. I thank the management of BCMCH, Reverend Father Sijo Pandapallil, and Dr. George Chandy for having, and all those who are involved in this organization of the SHP. Remember, I am not one for flattery, and I don't like flattery, but I must tell you, this program is a very important program. It transforms, it reforms, and makes you who you are. And therefore, we are lucky in this medical college, as is in Vellore, to have this secondary hospital posting. This is the picture of BCMCH Hospital. I spoke about the place, but I did not show you what it looks like. And this is the group who came with us. Thank you very much. I have a very short video to show, and after that I will finish. And I thank you for your patient hearing this morning. Volume.
हो गई 1 2 2 ओ कुड़िए what to do ओ हो गई मुंडे दी पतंगा वारगी तू एवें उड़दी ओ हो गई मुंडे दी
Suntan tells stories, and the shape of the white snitch is fattening in tropical climes. Now you
रंग जाए, तेरी कस्तूरी रैन जगाए। मन मस्त मगन बस तेरा नाम दोहराए। मन मस्त मगन बस तेरा नाम दोहराए। चाहे भी तो भूल न पाए। मन मस्त मगन बस तेरा नाम दोहराए। मन मस्त मगन तेरा नाम दोहराए।
जोगिया जोग लगा के वखरा। खो गए हम कहाँ, रंगों सा ये जहाँ। खो गए हम कहाँ, रंगों सा ये जहाँ। टेढ़े मेरे रास्ते हैं, जादुई इमारतें हैं, मैं भी हूँ तू भी है यहाँ। खोई सोई सड़कों पे सितारों के कंधों पे हम नाचते उड़ते हैं यहाँ। नित तेरे उत्ते दौलत लुटाइयां, जो भी कुछ किया तूने कदरा पाइयां। दिल दुखा के मेरा तू ते सो गया है यारा। रुस के बह गया इश्क मेरे तो मनदानी मेरी यारा। तेरा गया कुछ नहीं, मेरा रहा कुछ नहीं, गल्ला करा सच नहीं। तेरा गया कुछ नहीं, मेरा रहा कुछ नहीं, गल्ला करा सच नहीं। निभनी नहीं तेरे तो मैनू है पता सी रखिया यकीन।
Thank you very much. And as I stand here tear-filled, so was I when I heard my students speak. Thank you so much.
I will request Dr. Joji Joshua to kindly come over just to save time. As they say, values are caught, not taught. And I think that's what this presentation has shown us, that our students, I think, have seen it all embodied in the lives of people who work in the BCMCH. Thank you so much, Dr. Luke, for the wonderful presentation, and I can appreciate the hard work which has gone in to make this. Thank you so much, and especially Team BCMCH, can you just stand up so that we can just see who all went to BCMCH, and shall the rest of us give them a good hand? They've done a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, all of you. Please sit down. Over to Dr. Joji, who went to the other part of Orissa.
I really need to ask Akash whether he is really intrigued by the conundrum of complexities. The sir kai nittanu enikku samshayundu. Well, continue with what Luke sir has stopped. Travel. Travel broadens our mind. But I think I'm completely overshadowed by Luke sir's fantabulous presentation, so forgive me if I bore you with all the photos and presentations. But travel broadens our mind. And one of the best ways to increase our wisdom is to explore new places, as sir told. And new places, new people, cultures, challenging experiences. And I should thank BCMCH for giving me the opportunity to visit all these mission hospitals. This is for 4th time over the last 10 years. Started with Robertsganj Hospital, Roxall, Makunda, and this time to Odisha Ashakiran Hospital. Along with my wife, Dr. Roshan Mary Worki, and my son, my parents, we expanded our family with Deepak, Dev Tarun, Iris, Lakshmi, Sharon, and Setu Lakshmi. The experience that we got from the April 8th to April 25th actually can be summarized into 14 M's. By witnessing marvelous machines, monumental museums, mesmeric miracles, masterful medicine, magical moments, mystical memories, and it was a mind-blowing mission. So I think, as Sir told, before experiencing the real Bharat, we actually went to see those marvelous machines in the India before seeing the Bharat. We went on our way to Ashakiran Hospital. We visited Visakhapatnam and saw many places like homestays, RK Beach, and many other places. And apart from that, we saw these engineering marvels like Vishaka Museum, Kursura Submarine Museum, Aircraft Museum, and also on our way to Duduma, we saw the magnificent hydroelectric project as well. So we know the complexity of our brain, our body anatomy, but we were so intrigued by the complexity of those marvelous machines as well. And even the view of the Vista Dome train was also fantastic. And we saw so many tunnels, mountains and valleys, which I feel which was actually a kind of a reflection of the lives of the people over there, because the valleys and mountains signifies the ups and downs in our life, and the darkness of the tunnels of sorrow, poverty, lack of education. And we know that there is always light at the end of the tunnel, the light, the kiran of Asha. So, yeah. Little did we know that the children, what they were about to experience is that something that never had in their life. It took almost, I think one of the picture is missing over there. Yeah, so it took almost 2 days for us to reach over there, and some of us think that the journey was quite hectic. But these 2 days, there were times when these luxury was not there at all, and that time, we see so many unknown people with no face, no names, no identity and all. People living their hard life, struggling to survive. We don't know them. We have not even tried to search them. Are we really not empathetic towards them? We don't identify those faces. There are so many marginalized people over there. In this context, there were 3 couples who actually traveled about 32 years back to a place called Lamtaput after a survey, and in Orissa state, and they worked in a shed that you see about 32 years back. They worked in a shed to shed light to those marginalized people, to serve them, to help them. And some of the seniors would definitely know Dr. Verghese Philip. He was actually working here for some time as our marketing director. And one of them is actually a sister of our own, Eligia ma'am as well. So that light is actually now shining bright. And it has now become quite big. The Ashakiran Society is now more than 200 staff with just one vision of having a just and compassionate communities, choosing and celebrating life. That radiant, positive dream is actually reflected in all the people who actually work there. And that spark is actually ignited to uplift the socio-economic, cultural, academic, as well as the health status of the people around. It started in 1991, but in 1997 they built a beautiful building complex with an architect, by the architect Mr. Laurie Baker. Some of you may know him. And then the logo has actually a fish, a cross and a bow arrow, which signifies the Christian identity and the health and healing, as well as the socio-cultural tribal context. The mission of the hospital was to facilitate sustainable transformation, empower and develop leaders, solidarity with the marginalized, and also most importantly, experience Christ transforming love by living a life of simplicity, gentleness and self-denial, love and care for his children, and good interpersonal relationship. So the place is actually a southernmost part of Orissa, known as Lamtaput, which is in the Koraput district, serves a population of around 15 lakhs, of which 55% of them are tribals and 20% are scheduled caste. There are about 15 tribal groups, most importantly the Bonda tribes, Didaik, Honda tribes, and the multidimensional poverty index is about 70%, where the families are poor. And the hospital actually serves a community of around 140 villages. The leaders of Ashakiran have actually identified the importance of increasing the buying power of the common people by raising their socioeconomic standards. So there were many interventions apart from the hospital thing, that was making an academy, village education centers, community health, then agricultural consultancy, etc. Regarding the hospital statistics, there were last year there were about 32,000 outpatients, 2,000 inpatients, more than 350 surgeries, 450 deliveries. They're planning a phase 2 in about 5 years to 10 years or so. And this area will be transformed to a pain and palliative care. And we started the days with devotion, and there were orientation classes, the IP rounds, OPDs, ultrasound scans, antenatal checkups, then the daily briefing experiences. In the 2 weeks, I feel that the students have learned much more than they would have experienced in the last over 5 years in this hospital, and especially so many different kinds of types of diagnosis cases. In the OPD, they have seen psoas abscess, TB lymphadenitis, Hansen's disease, chronic myeloid leukemia. The IPD, they used to go for rounds and see surgical wards, maternity wards, medical wards, huge bedsore dressings, paraplegia after spinal cord injuries, ebony amputations, pneumonia, malaria, tuberculosis, congestive cardiac failure. In the emergency room, they used to they have seen oleander poisoning, organophosphorus poisoning, deliberate self-harm, then sickling crisis, snake bites, fractures, hypocalcemia after thyroidectomy, acute kidney failure, stroke. In the OT, they have witnessed cases with fetal distress, normal deliveries, secondary postpartum hemorrhage, birth asphyxia, DNCs. Then orthopedic cases like implant removals, AK amputation, then LSES, the exploratory laparotomy for gunshot wounds. And they have observed and performed several procedures like IV cannula insertion, dressings, DNCs, ascitic fluid tab, liver abscess, drainage, close reduction and application of plaster and fractures, sebaceous cyst excision, ganglion cyst aspiration, wound debridement, suturings and suture removals, examination of antenatal women, ultrasound, endoscopy, intubation, extubation, all those things. So they've had such a vast and wide experience. Just want to tell you about one patient called Arjun. He's a 35-year-old gentleman with juvenile arthritis. From 2017 onwards, he has undergone around 6 surgeries. His left knee and both the hips were replaced, and he is waiting. He has got a stiff ankylosed right knee and deformed both wrist, and he is waiting for a right total knee replacement as well as wrist arthrodesis. And this man is willing to come to us for a treatment, and the only faith the only thing that he has is a faith in God and faith in us. So I don't know whether can we help him or not. What we learned was being a basic doctor. So, and about multitasking, these things, because at one point of time we would see people or doctors or the employees standing in the triage area of the entrance checking BP and all. That another time we see the same person in the plaster room doing plastering procedures. Another day we might see that person doing a surgery and like a sebaceous cyst excision or anything. Another day we might see him giving a spinal anesthesia for a patient in OT. So that's that extreme of multitasking these people are actually doing. And me and Dr. Roshan did our routine work. Roshan did a community rehabilitation visits. Me and Roshan had OP as well as IP and theatre work over there. And I have actually learned a bit of orthopedic ODA as well. Dui sapta onta bota godo joluchi or jim or me chupla bele iti bota. I don't know, I'm so excited to learn, but I need to get only orthopedic patients. So otherwise, yeah. So orthopedic ODA, I think I've just managed. So it's like a child, I'm so excited to learn the new language and to start to communicate with people, because in 4 days' time, I was able to communicate with my limited words and knowledge of those. So that I feel that is quite important to get to people, reach people, that there will be an effective way. So Ashakiran Academy is another arm, healing arm of Ashakiran Society Academy, as well as supplementary education centers. There were about the school was just near to the hospital, and there were 231 children. Only 25% of students were from the children of staff of Ashakiran Academy. 75% of them were from local villages. Started in 1994, and in 2005 they started something called a multilingual education, where a special type of teaching where they teach almost the same subject or the same topics in different languages, starting with their mother tongue. It could be a audio or another dialect called Desiya, and they teach the same subject or same topic in Desiya, and then they teach the same thing when the next class in Odia itself, and they teach the same topic or subject in English. So they know the story, they know the context, but the language might be is becoming different. So it will be a much more easier way to learn those subjects. And community health program was a very important thing that done by the Ashakiran Society, especially towards the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, especially the Bonda groups, the Didai Gonda group, they used to still walk with bows and arrows. It was the time when in 1990s, those couples actually went to serve those people. And now the multilingual education is also being done there, as well as they've got a health outpost in the Bonda Hills. Last year they have treated thousands of patients over there and conducted dozens of village clinics over there as well. So seeing this bow and arrow thing, I think some of the people actually found out their skills. They understood that more than the education or the skill development was actually more important, then it would have been much more worthwhile. And the Ashakiran Society has actually started a bamboo treatment unit, especially for the Bonda as well as the local people. And they made so many value-added things like toys and other value-added products. One of what you see, the aeroplane that they made is actually ordered by the Hindustan Aeronautic Limited, and for many orders. And the eyewear that I wear is also made by bamboo. And also inspired by me, actually, they started building a Miyawaki forest also, so a high density forest which they have just started after my blabbering. Next is about Adarsha Bagicha agricultural farms. So that is as I told, to improve the socio-economic background, also to improve the buying power of the people of the community. They've started an Adarsha Bagicha project. With the project is basically based on the making about model 1 acre or 2 acre farms, and they divide it into 3 areas, and they plant about 1/3 of the area. They plant cash crops like forestry and spices like silver oak or pepper or coffee or anything, and then later the second 1/3 they plant the horticultural crops like this fruit trees and all. And the next 1/3 they actually plant vegetables, millets and all those things. So the Ashakiran Society has got around 23 staff with they cultivate around 87 types of crops in 89 villages in about 348 farms. They supervise 442 farmers. So I think our students are really bonded with the Bonda during their now they're blood related with Bonda people. So I hope the children will really go back and serve these places as well. And I was quite lucky to meet the right people to continue my bird watching journey as well. And this time in the Eastern Ghats, and I think I've recorded more than 70 birds. Species and sounds of many more, and the dozens of which of them I couldn't even identify. The roads of life is quite treacherous, narrow and difficult, but the satisfaction that we achieve at the destination is worth all the sweat and the toil. I was not just talking about the Duduma Falls that we visited, but the whole Ashakiran experience as well. Because in St. Mathew 9:37-38 says, "The harvest is great, but the workers are few." So pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest and ask Him to send more workers into the fields, because we need more workers. And the experience have truly given us a ray of hope in the edge of darkness. For us, it was a rebooting of our monotonous routine life, and to know that there are people out there who deserve genuine help. So I feel that this is the real quest for knowledge, skills, attitude, practice, ethics, and communication. Thank you. I'll be just putting the links of 2 videos in this live YouTube channel next to that as message, so we can watch those videos if you want. Thank you.
I'll request Team Ashakiran students to also stand up, and then we'll give them a standing ovation as well for the team. Thank you. Right. Okay. Thank you. Just please seat it for just a minute. I'll ask Principal Girija Madam just to say a couple of words, and then Dr. George Shandy to say the concluding remarks. Okay. Let Dr. George Shandy say.
So thank you, Dr. Luke, Mathew, and Joji Joshua. Thank you so much, Roshan and Joyce. Thank you for all those who made all this happen, and to all the students, because this is a dream come true. When our Vice Chancellor 3-4 years ago attended this presentation, he was so impressed that he called the whole team to Thrissur to make all the other colleges here. But such good things don't last, no? So we had forgotten. So thank you for rekindling the flame, and these were both excellent presentations. And thank you for teaching us that this is really the quest that we are on. And we hope that as an institution, we'll develop doctors of compassion and caring, and that we will really reach out to the world. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll request Dr. Jacob. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, and we really hope this will be the first of a series of presentations over the coming months. Thank you all. Have a good day.